and this thought of the day is this is from Neely Fuller. It can be said that a true friend is a person who has proven that he or she believes in justice. All right. So that's the thought of the day. And those are at the end of the book. Getting started, I want to play this clip from Neely Fuller, just to get everyone on the same page about our position in terms of us all being equal under this health system called racism and white supremacy. So we're gonna listen to some of this clip, and I'm sure it may power some of the conversation later on. That started. Dun, dun, dun. Oops. I don't know if I hit this shit. I don't know if I hit the sound thing. Probably did it. All right.
Sure. Under VGQ, which means Victims Guaranteed Qualification, a black person can say anything they want to about race, racism, or counter-racism. They're qualified to do that. Every black person is qualified. And they're qualified to make suggestions. But if they say that President Obama is not doing what they want done, then there's one major alternative that each and every black person has. And it's obvious if you follow the logic. And that is, okay, he won't do it. Then they have two words that they can say to themselves: I will. So far, I don't see anybody making that move. He won't do it, doesn't know how to do it, doesn't have the nerve to do it. I'll do it. Now, that's scary. Very easy. Set up in the audience, set up in the bleachers, set up in the grandstand, and say, that quarterback is no good. That's relatively easy. Relatively easy compared to what? Compared to someone saying, or the quarterback that's on the field, looking up in to where the spectators are, and even that ball up there to the person who is shouting the loudest about, you don't know what you're doing, or you don't have the nerve to carry out your job. Heave that ball right up there as they bring it right back down here on this field. And here's my helmet. Take care of the next few plays. It's a different ball game altogether when you look at it from that viewpoint. When you are the one on the field. Make it happen. Because all victims of racism are equal when it comes to the white supremacists. Every black person on this planet is equal when it comes to taking on the white supremacists. That's a huge job, biggest job on earth. That's the biggest assignment on earth for any non-white person who says racism is no good and I am going to get rid of it. Well, you're not going to have a lot of competition there. You got the field to yourself. You hold the ball, do what you got to do, if you know what to do. So far, no one has proven that they know what to do. The evidence shows that. Lots of people are wishing for it. I wish all the time. Lots of people are trying to make plans. I try to make plans. I write books. I go on the radio. I go on the internet. I try to figure out what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say. Haven't been successful yet. Why? Where's the evidence? Because the evidence shows the system of white supremacy is alive and well worldwide. No one, even people with the best of intentions, many of whom are dead now, no one has proven that they know what to do about replacing the system of racism with the system of justice. Justice meaning in a compensatory definition I had to produce because there is no legal definition for the word justice, I've been told some years ago. So I made up a compensatory definition, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. I think that's the best possible definition that we can get so far. Someone comes up with a better one, we go with that one. But in the meantime, trying to achieve that, it hasn't happened. I can talk about it. I have been talking about it. The racists, if I have caught their ear or they have seen something that I have written, they are aware that I have written it. They are aware that I have talked about it. But the racists say, yes, but I hold all the cards. Now, that Fuller fellow wants to replace the system of racism with justice. Let him give it his best shot. Because right now, nobody's making me do anything that I don't want to do. And nobody, none of those black people out there have proven that they're smart enough to come up with a formula that can make me do anything that I don't want to do. None. None of those who are breathing now, none of those whose ancestors came before them and died trying. Hasn't happened. Yet some of them claim that they are smart. They are smart than other black people. That's about the best they can do. They may be smarter than some white people, but they are not smarter than a white person that believes in white supremacy, because they haven't proven that they are. I always tell them what to do. They never tell me nothing. They beg for a job, beg for a house, beg for a side of town that I can assign them to go somewhere and try to breathe and get something to eat from me, because if they get any food at all, it's going to be from me. They decide to cross an ocean, got to get my permission. They decide to wander the streets. I will determine what street they can wander on. They want to sleep in the park, got to get permission from me. They don't tell me what to do. I tell them everything. Them and people that they call their kin folks, their so-called wives, which they don't have because I own them too.
All right. So this is the problem where we're talking about. And I think this brief clip by Neely Fuller just brings in some interesting points and interesting take on reality. Later on in that clip, he mentions how he's just talking about reality, and the people who are familiar with this problem, I'm sure they're familiar with other victims getting upset or hostile when we try to talk about this reality. And I think it's really weird because I'm sure this problem this race problem has affected all of us. So the first question for everyone to answer is how has the race problem affected you? And when I say race problem, I mean racism, white supremacy, the war waged against all non-white people by white people. So how has this race problem affected you? Anyone want to answer first?
I'll say how. I'll definitely say how. One thing that I've noticed my entire life is that just because I'm black, people often assume that I'm aggressive or I'm any number of things other than just existing. Like there's all these labels that are attached to me that I didn't ask anybody to give me, but they took it upon themselves to give them to me because, as all of us know, or I would imagine we know. So I apologize if I'm being, making assumptions, but blackness is, synonymous with like evil or negativity or stupid or etc. All these other terrible things. So that's how it's affected me. People's perception of me is based on falsehoods sometimes. That was it. In case, I don't know. That was it.
So anyone else want to answer? If the problem hasn't affected you, please share how the problem hasn't affected you and how you've avoided the problem, because that would be constructive information.
Yeah, I think for me, like in the past, I would have said that it affected like my self-esteem, but I think it's so much deeper and like all encompassing, like reading your review and stuff. It affects my whole psychology. It produces like this learned helplessness where none of us can produce anything of our own. We can't be self-sustaining. We rely on rich white people to like give us our electricity, our water, etc., our food. And I think that it produces like a feeling of like powerlessness. And it also affects your psychology in that you're trying to exist in a way that white people deem acceptable, which is like competitive and like what Neely Fuller was saying in the book about either there's only three types of ways you can live. It's like either domination, survival, or like peace. Like three and like my daughter was saying how like you can't even survive unless you try to dominate, and which is something that I've been thinking about too. So yeah, I think it's just all encompassing.
Okay, I think it's affected me through the system of schooling and marriage. One of what I mean by that is one of my first experiences in a class was my mom not being able to make it to a parent teacher conference because she had to work Walmart job. They weren't really flexible with her. And the teacher got mad at me and told me that she was going to lower my grade if my mom couldn't make it, knowing that my mom had a low paying job that wouldn't work with her. After the teacher had met my mother, which is black, she started treating me a way that was, really weird. And at that age, I really couldn't process it. But as I got older and noticed the same treatment in other classrooms and jobs and things like that with other people, not just myself, I realized a pattern that the other people in the class that she was treating the same way and lowering their grades for the same reasons were African American, and that that's one of the that's a minor that's part of how it's affected me. Another thing that I've noticed is that the system of marriage, I believe, is a construct of the white supremacy system, and they do not count on these marriages working, which I noticed that when the marriage was together between my mother and my father, I was considered intelligent at school. However, when the marriage fell apart and we didn't get the help that we needed through the system that's constructed to fail, I started there were completely different opinions of about me from the teachers, and I started failing like most other people who are non-white at the school. That's it.
Yep. For me, like, just I was like one of Frankenstein's like ultimate monsters is a good way to describe it. Like receiving messages about black being inferior and expendable 24/7, paired with me consuming violence of like no consuming entertainment that said killing is fun, like made me just to be like a victim who thought killing was fun. And I remember going to the candy store when I was like 9, getting some candy and then like fantasizing about killing people or ending up in jail and living like a real like hood tough life. It's very similar to that lyric. I think it's in Poetic Justice, when your thoughts are just so niggerized that you think it's normal. And it was normal for me to think that way because that's the white supremacy that I was programmed to think very nigger and monster thoughts. Um, and it bled into me getting like straight Fs, not caring about school at all. It was literally there's this quote I heard, and that says black people are serious about silly things and silly about serious stuff. Yeah, that's what I was. I was really not like serious about anything constructive. I was very destructive, and that was me and a lot of non-white people like myself from South Central. Um, yeah, and I could go on for an eternity about how this system has depressed and took away my large aspects of my soul and person, but as like that would take an eternity. So that would be all for now.
I'll go. One thing, it's many things, but I guess this system made me feel a lot of hopelessness. Um, just to see what my brothers go through, what my child fathers go through as far as law enforcement or getting a job or trying to work or anything in that aspect. It seems like it's always a struggle to try to get in higher grounds or quote unquote better living. And it's always, you're always going to be, you know, targeted for no apparent reason, but you start to realize when you get older, you're being targeted for the color of your skin. And it's hard to explain to a child that these are the reasons why you're being targeted. This is the reason why they're a particular way to you. But it just made me feel hopeful because it's always an ending cycle of we're victims and we don't know what to do or how to go about it, and then it leads us in a path of destruction because we're basically lost.
I'll go. Um, for me, I would say the race problem has affected me with self-doubt and having apprehension about doing hobbies I love to do. It just, I don't know, it's interesting to me because I like to be outdoors and do different things and volunteer at certain places. And a lot of these places I like to volunteer at are unfortunately predominantly only white people. And when I'm there,
and doing things I love to do. You know, you're slighted, you know, questions or why are you here? What makes you want to be here? And just things of that nature that just causes a lot of anxiety almost for me, and to the point where I just clam up and don't even go back and do my own thing, you know, away from them. But I would say self-doubt and having apprehensions about being able to do things I love to do, because you only see a certain group of people doing those hobbies. So yeah.
I can go real quick. Um, for me, it kind of resonates with Ashley was saying. I feel like the race problem like affected my whole psychology. I feel like I was really raised to think that in the US, your life circumstances were like the result of like your actions, and that was it. And like assimilation was this very, and like was for when I was young, I very much wanted to assimilate to whiteness. It just seemed like that was like what would be a good life or success or something. Um, and that was like very internalized in me by just like hearing like the American dream lie over and over again, which is like an extension to me of the race problem and imperialism specifically. So yeah, and I think it also like just, I don't know, really made me that I think learn a lot of horrible things I had to unlearn and that I'm continuing to work on.
Would anyone else like to share?
I'll go. I'll say it's affected me in like the way that I think. It's also made me rethink what I wanted to do for like a career, how I interact with my family, and then looking back on like things that they didn't teach me because they just simply didn't know. And I would definitely agree with the thing about hobbies and stuff. Just what you use your time and energy doing now. And yeah, that's what I got.
Anyone else? Well, I believe Barbara, would you like to share? Or Z? If not, we could segue into anyone just opening up to talk about the pages we read. If anyone had any thoughts, questions, or concerns.
Okay, so what I wrote down, or what stood out to my mind from what I read was that all victims are equal when it comes to taking on the white supremacy system, and to read, research, and educate. I wrote a thought next to that the system is rigged and that the people are brainwashed into the system, so they are not functioning at their full capacity to help the problem because they are not fully aware of what the problem is. So since they are not aware, people don't know how to replace the system, and they are believing that it is either not that bad or they cannot do anything about it, which seems to be the agenda of the system. So just getting the word out there, educating people and understanding the system ourselves, since it doesn't really seem like most people understand it. Understanding, I think, is the first step. And that's it for that part.
Yeah, agree. Yes, the least a victim could do is understand the world that they live in, which is, as I've learned, the reality way is it's not a pleasant place at all. Only if you're a white supremacist, then it can be very pleasant. But yeah,
Well, before we go, I wanted to I really liked what he said about the football field, like the spectator and like the quarterback, because I think that as like especially with the younger generation, I feel like we're really even my parents honestly are comfortable being spectators and constantly like talking, but not really coming up with any like tangible solutions or plans even. And it's like it's almost like people are too afraid to even talk about how to end white supremacy or even say white supremacy, so that it's like coming up with an actual solution is, I feel like people are more comfortable with just talking about it because it doesn't require much out of them. So I liked what he said about that, because I think once you're in the trenches, it's a lot more different.
Sandra, I really appreciated what you said, and it kind of brings me to this question that I have for the group. And do we think non-white people are more confused about racism, what it is, and how it works, or white people? Who's more confused about this problem?
I think that they're both equally confused in different ways. I think that the white people are trying to, how do you say it? I'm trying to put this. I don't think I said it right, but I think that everybody is confused. I think that people that are white often are confused about the system if they are not a part of white supremacy. They don't understand how deep it goes. I think they realize that it exists and that it's a problem, but if they don't feel that they practice it, or if they are not, directly, say, around a family member who practices it, or, withdrawn from their race, withdrawn from their ancestors, that they are a bit confused. I think that the average white person is not really confused about it, but I think that the average non-white person is, because the system is created to confuse them. And I think that the system is created to make them think that they can't do anything about it by stripping away at their self-esteem.
I wanted to add on to that. In addition to being, positioned to make sure that non-white people are not able to ascend, or not in a way that makes any real difference. I'm sorry. In addition to that, I wanted to talk about the suppression. I guess the suppression you're talking about. I wanted to give more to, I don't know, to expound on that, I guess. But think about, when you're growing up, and you don't learn anything about people who look like you, or you learn about them in footnotes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get like a Black History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month, things like that. But those things are just to placate you, because they don't really matter, and they don't really care.
Right.
The curriculum is not taught in a way that makes any real difference to you, because you grow up and then you don't learn about any real movers and shakers or people who did real things that can matter in your life until you get older. Well, at least from my perspective, I'm learning more right now in my 20s than I ever have in the so-called educational system, And I wonder, I would wonder why. How come I didn't learn about this in school? And I thought, maybe my curriculum just wasn't focused on that. But it's not on accident. It's not on accident you don't learn about powerful people, because if you have symbols of people who are powerful that look like you won't accept the position you're in. You won't think to be so docile, and that's what we are. Non-white people are docile. You see what's going on right now. Like today, there are people storming the Capitol. Like, it's crazy. This is insanity. But if they were non-white people, it would have been a bloodbath for sure. No doubt in my mind about it. And it's just really problematic to not learn anything about yourself until you get older. Like to know true things about yourself and what you're capable of doing. And the suppression of knowledge and information against non-white people is unacceptable. But I guess just to get back to answer Swat's question originally, non-white people are certainly more confused than white people. And I don't even think that white people are confused at all. Maybe they don't maybe some white people don't realize the gravity of how bad the situation is, but I kind of feel like, how could you not know? You're a white person, your life is easier than everybody else's around you. Like, something has to click in your mind and go, well, how come everybody else is having these issues with the police? And how come everybody else is feeling this way about the government? And how come everybody else this, and that? It's not that for me. The police are my friends, all this other shit. Like, I'm sorry for swearing, but it's just really, it's very frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. And I guess short answer, yeah, like we all know, non-white people are definitely more confused, and white people already know. And if they don't know, they don't want to know, because they don't want their comfortability to be shaken up. They don't want to think about that shit. It's too much. It's easy to just let things run their course and stay the way that they are for them. So that's my 2 cents on that. I apologize if I stepped on your time. I'm really sorry about that. I thought that you were done. I apologize.
Yeah, I think it's really important to for everyone to understand that I don't believe white people are confused about the system of racism, simply because at the bare minimum, this system is designed to mistreat everyone who's non-white. So at the bare minimum, they're able to pick up that 24/7, or whenever they look around, they're able to see a non-white person in a inferior or lesser position than them. So it's very dangerous to let white people have convince us that they don't know what's going on, that they're as confused, because that's how they've been able to keep this thing going for so long, by letting confused victims think that they're like in the same boat when they're actually driving the boat, controlling the boat.
Yeah, they're feigning ignorance.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely I was very confused about this problem, to the point where I didn't even know I was confused. I thought everyone, the world's problem was trauma, but now I understand that racism, white supremacy, which is a war against people who look like me and people who are not white, it's where this trauma is coming from. It's not just random, not just some like portal that opened up and like causes this stuff to happen. There's racist suspects somewhere in the world plotting and planning and participating in my mistreatment and everyone's mistreatment who are not white. I think we all need to understand that. Anyone else want to answer the question?
I agree. I do believe that white supremacists are not confused. It made me think of this. I don't know if you guys are aware of Jane Elliott. She's like a diversity educator, and she had did an experiment where all the folks in the audience were white, and she said, "I want everyone to stand up if they want to be treated like Black people are treated in America," and nobody stood up. And so she said, "Oh, so you guys do realize." That there's different treatment for Black people in America. And so, yeah, they're not confused. They know what's up. They're the ones that create this whole system in the first place. From the things that they do, the language that they speak, all of it, the whole thing. So yeah, I definitely believe that non-white people are confused, but white supremacists are definitely not confused.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I heard that even a white child understands the difference between like the treatment that Black people get compared to white people. So even white babies are aware of the system. So it's really important. Any more comments on this?
Yes. I know non-white people are confused because you always see non-white people, especially during this Trump era, protesting with the white people. They're rallying with them. They're like people believing like, oh, I'm a veteran. Yeah, I'm a Black veteran, but I fight for this country and we have freedom and rights. And it's like, you're fighting for all the wrong things because they don't care about your freedom or your rights. So they walk as ignorant as possible with the rest of these white people that know the agenda, but they fully don't know the agenda. They see it as America is the land of the free, or et cetera, et cetera. When in reality, it's for you to not be free. It's for them to live as free as possible if you are a white person.
That's the thing. If they got to tell you it's the land of the free, already there's something up with that. Like, we should be able to feel that it's the land of the free without having to recite it constantly. Because I think that that's part of where we got lost is, being told by the school system to recite that, the Pledge of Allegiance, and that, programming. Well, at least I was kind of programmed that I was free initially through the school. But
does everyone have a before reading this book or these few pages, did anyone, like, what was everyone's thoughts on like constructive versus non-constructive? Like how did everyone view their economics, time, and energy? Like,
What do you mean, bro?
like
I see it as far as like when they were talking about like being constructive with music and as possible, like music that is like kind of stating the issue and like coming to the resolution of things. I feel like it's harder for people to be constructive with certain things when they use certain things for certain reasons, if that makes sense. Like, some people listen to music for the fun and the enjoyment, but some people listen to music for like the realness in it or the message behind it, or not just the melody or the beat of it. So yeah, I could tell the difference of being constructive and inconstructive as far as different kind of things, especially educational wise. Um, People use things for certain reasons, and those reasons have to be justifiable, meaning for justice for all of us, instead of just the enjoyment of, the moment.
People have been taught to only enjoy things for the moment. People are very vapid. They don't. They don't care about the message that much. Some people do, but most people don't care about the message. But they don't care about it because they've been taught to not care about it. They've been taught to look for the easy. People want a fast food life. Like, nobody wants to like really cook. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate to like break everything down to a metaphor, but people want a McDonald's life. Nobody wants to go to the stove and cook anything. Everybody wants this instant gratification, and they don't want to think critically about anything. People love like, I know that people are afraid of the truth because they love being distracted. People love being distracted. And if you weren't afraid of the truth, not you, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, but people, they love to be distracted because the more distracted you are, the less time you have to uncover the truth. Because I feel like deep down, a lot of people know how bad it is, or they have a pretty good idea about how bad it is, but they keep, listening to stupid music and consuming like terrible food, and just living like fast food lives because they don't want to deal with the consequences of what's real and what's in front of them. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but I mean, I don't know. My money's on me.
yeah, like before I like discover like what is that simple. Everything is either constructive or non-constructive. And I'm able to like reflect on like how I was spending my time. Like for example, I used to play this game called StarCraft, which is basically a game about war and genocide. So I'm playing this game about war and genocide while in real life experiencing a war and genocide, oblivious to it. So I don't think it's constructive for me to play video games about that sort of thing, not while not also giving the same attention to the real war and genocide I'm actually a part of. And also, prior to me understanding this war and discovering this war, a lot of the things I did was basically just non-constructive. Like, listen, like Kari said a really interesting point. Like listening to music for unconstructive reasons. Like I used to listen to like terrible music because I had terrible feelings about other human beings. So I listened to music that talked about killing and destroying other human beings. So that's not constructive. So everything is either constructive or non-constructive. So I wish I had this information much sooner, like as a toddler. But most victims
Let me
don't.
ask you, Swad. Do you think that there's any gray area? Do you think it's either constructive or non-constructive? Do you think there's
Uh
like leisure? Is there a gray area, or do you think it's only black and white? It's only
it's not. I don't think so. What I think this is according to the code, according to the compensatory code.
I
That's
mean, but you could have an opinion on that though. So I'm just asking you, bro. Like,
yeah. I don't think there's a gray area. I think everything's a constructive or non-constructive.
all right.
What about anyone else want to get your thoughts on this?
I feel like if you're in a war, then either you're doing stuff that's like helping your side or you're doing stuff that's helping the other side. Like there's a thing that says you can't be neutral on a moving train. So it's like all of your actions are either benefiting white supremacy or benefiting producing justice. That doesn't mean that all your actions are always going to be producing justice because people only have a limited capacity. But yeah.
Yeah, no matter what, even if you live a 100% constructive existence, you're still a prisoner of this system, which means you're still contributing to it in X amount of ways. So there's
Yeah,
no way to truly be constructive until the system is replaced with system of justice. But it's very important to like attempt to be as much as possible.
that's a good point that you made, bro. Because I remember when we were watching I can't the spook who sat by the door, and they had one of those guys infiltrate like as a maintenance man and steal. The only the reason I bring this up is because like even if you keep your nose down or stay out of the way, like white supremacy, like it loves docile non-white people, people that just mind their own business or just stay out the way or don't get involved in this or don't get involved in that. So even if you're not actively engaging in like listening to trash music or eating trash food, if you're still like just going through the motions day by day, you have to depend on white supremacy to exist. You have to everything you do, the clothes you buy, the food you eat, the water you drink, everything, every single aspect of your life is controlled by some way, shape, or form by a white supremacist machine. So, I just thought about that.
Mm. Thank you. I think that's a very good segue to talk about the 9 areas of people activity. Um, can we all just take to? I'm just gonna say like give my understanding of like um the first area, and then we'll take turns until we cover all of the 9 areas of people activity. Um, because I think it's really simple and easy way to understand like daily activity is by understanding these people activities, these 9 areas, because white people love to like create a bunch of classifications and a bunch of divisions. So this could easily be like 1,000 different things, but it's simplified and it says a lot by how we are totally dominated and controlled. So the first area of people activity is education, which is
Economics.
oh yeah, my bad, economics, which is your time and energy, how you spend your time and energy. It's not necessarily money. Money is a tool of economics, like capitalism is a like, tool of economics. So anyone want to give a next one?
Education is number 2. So basically, the process of learning things and all things, and the process of learning things about one thing. If people know about one thing, they'll know about all things that they learn.
Yeah, I think a really good way to understand education is just any place where like learning is taking place, you know.
The next one's entertainment, which I like their description because I don't feel like it's just too broad when I think about entertainment in society, but just like anything that's desired or enjoyed, including just or unjust. And so I think this is like what is most challenging me. And I didn't respond to the constructive and unconstructive that Swaz question, but I'm really grateful for this book because I think a lot of things I've been hearing in the last couple of years that are just like very like pleasure activism-y type things like that are very like, I think it's just it's just a different perspective, and it's challenging me because I feel like I do a lot of things that I'm just like, oh, so something brings me joy, but it's not countering white supremacy. Like, should I not do that? Even if you know what I mean, like playing an instrument or something. But I think that's something like there's more nuance to it, and we're gonna get into that like further in the book.
That's the gray area that I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think that's like a very interesting thing to think about because I don't know. Even though like we are in a war, like I feel like humans want like self-fulfillment in some type of way. And
well, I feel like playing an instrument is like contributing to your brain elasticity and like fading away like Alzheimer's. So
yeah,
like in the future because it's working your brain in different ways, and it's also like something
it's
that
like,
you can give to other people.
Yeah, like keeping you healthy.
Yeah.
Obviously, if your music that you're creating is not like inciting violence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's just like an example. But there's like a lot of things like that that are like I'm really thinking about. So.
Okay, so the fourth one is labor, which is basically work. And the fifth one is law, everything that is done. Does anyone want to help me with this or?
Yeah, politics is people relations or interaction between people at any place at any time in any place in any area of activity, which I like because there's a lot more things that are political than people like to think. So I liked that definition.
Religion means the sum total of everything that a person thinks and everything that he or she says, plus everything that he or she does. A religion includes all parts of a person's existence, each part of each day. Even if those parts are never put into words, they are still a part of a person's religion. If that person willfully and deliberately speaks and acts according to those parts. Religion is not separate from existence, nor is it separate from any part of existence. A person's religion is anything that a person strongly believes, plus what that person supports by his or her willful actions.
Number 8 is sex, means any socio-material interaction between a male and a female.
Number 9.
Oh,
War
God.
means, or does it go in order or?
Yeah.
I didn't know if it went in order or not.
Yeah, it doesn't go. It doesn't go in order, and I think
Okay,
you take the last one.
Oh, okay. So it's my turn anyways. Okay. Okay. War means any willful and deliberate, unjust or non-correct speech and or actions that are directly or indirectly used effectively against any creature, person, etc., Counter war means speech and or action used to stop a person, animal, etc. from doing unjust and or non-correct harm, and the sum total of all words and all deeds that helps to eliminate racism and helps to replace racism, white supremacy with justice, balance between people. All of the areas of activity are interrelated. What happens in one area affects all other areas of activity. What a person does in the area of economics affects what that person does in the area of religion or sex or war, etc. The racist, white supremacists, by dominating their victims, non-white people, in one area of activity at the same time also dominate them in all other areas of activity because all areas are interrelated.
Thank you, everyone. I know before reading this, I was very disorganized, so I didn't even care to like have any information like this about how people exist and like how the world is functioning. Even after so-called educated, even after being so-called educated, I still didn't care. But that's the effects of being terrorized 24/7 by racism.
What are everyone's thoughts on the areas of activity? Do you feel like it's suffice? Do you feel like there's parts that are missing or definitions that could be expanded on?
I guess when I think about like human relationships, like familial, that would fall under politics, right? When it's like interaction between people. But I think that's something that like is kind of left out for me. I'm not sure where that would fall. And then also, I just disagree with Area 8 with what sex is. I think that's like a very narrow, and we don't have to get into it now because we're gonna have lots of discussion in the book. But what I really like about this book was in the intro, it's like, think very critically and take what you want from every part of the book. And so like, I'm still excited to get into this. But yeah, I don't think that sex is just any socio-material interaction between a male and a female. Even like, just because I think that's homophobic, like I just don't even know if that's true, like socio-material interaction, like even in the hetero way. But yeah, we don't have to do that into that now. Just my 2 cents.
Hello, I'm in. Hello, everyone. I know it's time, huh? It's almost over. Is there another aspect of human interactions other than in these 9 areas that you know about? Did you understand or hear the question?
Yeah, I heard you loud and clear. But I think that the definitions they're supposed to be all encompassing. So if there's anything that's not there, I'm not sure if there's anything that's missing. I couldn't really say for certain, but I think the 9
So
areas.
I think that's what Mr. Fuller's intention is to let us know that this systematic thing affects all areas of our human activity, because that's all the human activity we have, Yeah. Can you think of another human activity that it doesn't encompass economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war?
I can't think of one. Anybody else want to take
Okay.
No.
So I think what is really, once I got to see what is he talking about, I think because of this fact, or what he say is the fact, which is pretty clear if you look at the areas that he's talking about, racism affects. So we could give an example of all those. I know someone could raise their hand and say, yeah, I've been affected by economics. Yeah, I've been affected. So the thing we need to do is figure out what is the step that we should take 24/7 that would prevent us from, that will help us counter this racism. Step by step.
Oh, sorry. I feel like the most simplified answer is to to only do constructive things all the time, which is a little
Right. And that's
unrealistic.
what he said.
But
All of your time should be constructive. The time you spend is either constructive or non-constructive. I would like to see this book like a worldwide study guide, you know, because then people will see that, yes, this is true. And if we behave differently, I think that's the only reason that we have suffered so much as a Black woman is because we're behaving badly. My forefathers had more than my fathers did, and they were in worse conditions than my father, you know? So I think it's the bad behavior that we exhibit that might be hindering us.
I would like to say that in addition to, you know, quote unquote bad behavior, it's the want for assimilation. I feel like that's the undoing of all non-white people. People What people think is good or bad is based on what white people tell them is good or bad. You know,
Right.
people don't necessarily, I don't want to say people aren't free-minded, but you know, that's what I'm going to say. People are not free-minded. People, their decisions are made for them. People's opinions are crafted based on other people's, you know, assumptions and things like that. So if people don't think critically, well, you know, like this book is asking them to, things will not change. But it has to be a large scale critical. It can't just be the nine of us. It has to be, you know, our mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters too. But if they don't, you know, care, like if we try to talk to them about this and they go, oh, okay, like try to sweep it under the rug, like it doesn't matter because they rather, you know, watch the Housewives of Atlanta than to read to read this book. And that's just the reality. So like, if it's not at a mass level, I'm not going to say this doesn't matter because it does matter, but without a mass, like a critical mass, like awakening, then we're doomed without critical like awareness.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. This needs to be global, but not only that, the people who are aware of the information need to apply the knowledge and to be on code. Like we have to understand we've been giving living in the system of racism. It gives us racist logic. The way our brain operates is racist logic. We think like a white maniac for the most part. And white maniacs have trained us to make us think that this is okay, that like the way we think is logical and it makes sense. But in actuality, it doesn't make sense. So we need to attempt to be counter racist scientists and use that logic, practice that logic. Um, according to when just to give an example, like we shouldn't use the word bad anymore. We should use the word incorrect because the only bad behavior that I can truly see is what the white supremacists are willingly doing. Everything like the non-white people are just victims. Like we're trained to be idiots. We're trained to be pitiful, pathetic, silly. Like we're just trained to be ugly creatures who aren't supposed to be serious. So once we're aware of that and we are able to communicate this to the global collective of victims, the people who like will aid in this war to solve the problem, that's a miracle. But it's not about just spreading it. It's about being on code. This needs to be a like what Barbara said, a global system.
Like individually, globally, individually.
Yep.
Like everybody stand up at the same time and wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, united, independent.
No?
Exactly what the cover says. Exactly. Like
Right. So
not coming together to do nothing because that's how people die. You know, let's just individually be aware of what's happening, counter it. You know, I'll chip at it in our own ways, and that will like erode the system. No more ghetto glorification will erode the system. Like practicing self-respect will erode the system. You know, countering the system will erode the system. We don't have to go to war because that's a sure way to die. We can't out war the white supremacists. They make the guns and ammunition, so impossible to beat them in a gun battle. We have to beat them like using logic, which is something luckily they can't use as officially as we can.
Who's speaking?
Slave 0526.
Oh, I don't see.
Yeah, my camera
Are you
died.
guys- Are you guys laughing at me? You know I'm an old person, right? It's not nice
we're
to laugh
not
at Mother
laughing at
Nature.
you at all.
No.
I'm looking. See, I'm looking at two ladies that
Yeah,
you know.
I'm
I spent 25 years in banking, so I know body language like you were talking it. It's like you got a bubble over your head.
I'm laughing at Swa saying slave 0526.
Me too.
You saying who's speaking?
Yeah.
Yeah. But does anyone have anything to share from what we read? If not, from page 3, what is your goal? From page 3, what is your goal? If it's not listed here, please.
I think you mean page 4.
Yeah, my bad. Page 4. What is your goal?
To be honest, like my goal is to survive by any means necessary at this point. Cause yeah, to be honest, like
Yeah, that's all we can be.
yeah, to establish peace, I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. Nor do I know if what it would take would require me to like lose everything that I have for future generations that would have.
So the options are, if you're unfamiliar, to survive by any means necessary, or to dominate others through deceit and or direct violence, including the threat of violence, or to establish peace. If you have a goal outside of these 3, please share.
I think that my goal is to survive by any means necessary. And
Okay.
establish peace too.
Can't hear you, Z.
My goal is to survive by any means necessary and to establish peace.
Well, my goal is simply to survive every single day of my life. I would like for peace to be established. Obviously, that is the best possible scenario. But until that is made an actuality, something that's achievable, like with a plan, until then it's going to be survival. Because I don't wish to oppress anyone.
My goal is to establish peace in my world. Peace in my world. I gotta have peace in my world. You can't come into my world unless you have peace. That's my goal.
My goal is just to basically to survive as well. I mean, peace sounds great, but I feel that in order to have peace, then racism, white supremacy has to be abolished, and that incorporates us having to, look towards the white supremacists to make that happen, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah.
The first off is to survive, because you have to be able to survive to establish the ultimate goal of peace. You have to have peace within yourself, which goes hand in hand with surviving properly. I mean, not just surviving, but being alive and understanding who you are. I think that once you can understand those things and establish peace within yourself, that you can begin and only begin to establish peace within, you know, those around you, your community, and you can grow from that.
I don't wanna I kind of disagree with you a little bit, Sandra, because
Go ahead.
not that you're wrong. I don't think that you're
No, you're
wrong
fine.
necessarily.
Yes,
I
go
just
ahead.
feel like, you know, if us individually we attain peace in our lives and we try to spread that, you know, the knowledge of peace to people around us, it kind of doesn't matter because we don't have power to affect the change necessary to bring about peace on a larger scale. Like I can't feel peaceful when the people around me are not peaceful. I feel like what I'm the peace that I'm reaching towards is only an illusion because everyone around me is in depressed states. I'm in depressed states. Every single person I know is in a depressed state. And it's not a joke, you know, like I'm not trying to be like, you know,
Right.
depressing or anything like that, but it's the actuality. And I just feel like without, I think well V had mentioned also, you know, like just without a true shift at a large scale, it doesn't matter because you could try to create peace for yourself, but then you run across people who don't have any idea what peace is, what real true peace is. We can read these self-help books and like give ourselves these mantras and things like that, but until actual peace is the system in place instead of white supremacy, then it's not enough because you're gonna end up running yourself crazy trying to give that peace to every single person you meet because they're not going to be able to believe the things that you're telling them because if they don't know peace, all they know is negativity and destruction. They won't be able to be on the same wavelength as you know what I mean? And
Right. So this needs
hope
to
that
be,
I'm making sense or
yeah,
you
basically.
know
So
that's
this
just
needs
and
to be
not to disrespect your point of view though at all
no,
at all.
that's an opinion. I'm not bothered by anybody's opinion. That's a open conversation.
Yeah.
Um,
VQ. Yeah.
But that's all I had to say.
Okay.
I think that most people or some people will pick surviving, but then they would like instead of peace, they'll want to dominate, so then they can survive. So then like anyone that's in their way, they just dominate them. That's crazy.
That's a good point, Z. People are taught that that's the only way to survive is to dominate others, but we all know that's not true. But that's all we've seen so far, unfortunately.
What do you think Mr. Fuller's intention for putting that, for choosing those choice of words? He expressed how his choice of words is so important.
I think he was choosing his words with intent for certain to be concise and minimize the amount of distraction that could come from his work.
Yeah, and also I think he's giving us he's showing us that hey, if you're one of those few people on the planet who actually fantasize or has fantasized about a place where there's no chaos and death and destruction, yeah, these people exist. You know, those people are the people who want peace, and yeah, and there's just to show that there's different goals out there.
Yeah, I liked it personally because I think that like we like raise a lot of kids with the idea that there's all of these goals and we apply like morals to goals. And I really like this because he just separates it into three, like because a lot of people think that their goals are like these things that are so amazing and they're gonna help all these people, but really it's like it's really just for you to survive, you know, it's for you and your survival unit to survive. It's but I think people like to have a lot of illusions that it's like deeper than that when really it's not. So I really liked that personally. And I mean he does define what peace is on page 6. So I mean if like other people are like confused about or other people are not on the same wavelength about what peace is. And I think that's why the book is important because at least now you have a template to like when you're having conversations with people, you have a definition of peace that you could use or you could not use, but at least it sets the ground somewhere instead of just being like vague. Because a lot of people say that they want peace, but they don't know what that means.
Mm. For me to answer the question, I think I knew I want peace. I want to spend my life trying to produce justice. If a white supremacist came to me and said, "Hey, 0526, there's never gonna be justice while in your lifetime. It's gonna happen, but not while you're here. So I'll do you a favor. If you say so, I'll kill you and let you get off this planet." I would say, yeah, kill me, because I'd rather be dead than than to live my entire life knowing that there won't be justice on planet Earth. But having the knowledge and awareness that there can be peace and justice on planet Earth in my lifetime is enough awareness that I need to spend my existence and life doing it. I think I understand that I can like create a good enough survival or living. I don't mind living off like the crumbs if I'm producing justice or attempting to do so. But yeah, that's how I would answer that question. Well, that's my goal. I don't think anyone here was born to be a slave or a prisoner. Yeah.
I think Mr. Fuller, when he was talking about, he gave us these three options most people. I think the first two really is dominated by Caucasian people, because they are at their survival mode now and they're doing anything that's necessary. If that means injecting you with a DNA that would change your DNA, so be it. They dominate others. They through deceit and or direct violence. I mean, those first two look like it should be labeled under Caucasian. But how many? Because you notice he noticed those three kind of people. There's white people, there's non-white people, and there's what's the third one?
White supremacists. For the three types of people, right? Yeah, for the three types of people, I'm sure there's white people, non-white people, and white supremacists, racist man and racist woman collectively. How does everyone feel about that? Thinning down the classifications of people just to three. Does that make sense to everyone on page 8?
Yeah.
Say the question again.
I have a question. Oh, I do have a question about the classification. So I was asking my.
No, I'm talking about what was he saying before? What was the question?
Oh, I think I was going off what you said. That what does everyone think about the three classifications of people in the known universe being white, non-white, and white supremacists?
Yeah. Did you want to answer, Barbara? Or
no, I was just trying to hear his question. But you go ahead with the answer.
Well, I just have a question myself, actually. So with that, I was asking myself this question: is it possible to be white and not a white supremacist? I almost thought it was only supposed to be two categories: a white supremacist and non-white people. So I'm not quite understanding that myself. Actually, I'm confused right now.
Okay, he said that Dr. Neely Fuller says that we can't tell you are a racist or white supremacy. I mean, we can't, but another person could tell you.
Yeah.
And I suggest if you have those questions, you should go to Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility.
I think
if you have that question.
I think Neely Fuller is even in his 90s, and he said he's never met a white person.
That's not right.
He wasn't a suspected white
What
supremacist.
Yeah, so
what did he say? What did he say?
I'm pretty sure he said that he's never met a white person who he didn't suspect to be practicing white supremacy, or who wasn't a white.
Yeah, that's the same thing that Jane Elliott says too. She says it'll be a miracle if white people wasn't racist because you're born in a racist society. That's what Jane Elliott said in her. She said it'll be a miracle if he wasn't, and the only way you can't be, because I know there are people who don't know that they are. But white fragility really answered the questions for me when Robin wrote that book. But Mr. Fuller says that we as prisons of war can't determine who is, you just got to suspect they all are until proven otherwise, right?
yeah.
That sounds safe to,
Yeah.
that sounds like a safe thing. So that's what, maybe maybe in the book he should have put, I mean, I can't, of course, I think so far the book is great, but I'm thinking, should he have put non-white people and then white, white supremacists / suspected? I mean, I don't know, because
I'm pretty sure he states later on in the book, right? That you pretty much have to suspect that any white person is a white supremacist, or a suspected white supremacist until they have proven otherwise. But I don't even know if there's a way to prove otherwise.
Yeah, well, in order for a white supremacist to be proven to be a white supremacist, you need another white person to do so. This is why it's best to just assume every white person is a racist suspect. And in this system of racism, white supremacy, the least black a person looks, you can also expect them to be sometimes even a huge player, like a huge contributor to well, I think we all should be aware we live in a system of anti-blackness. So even someone classified as, let's say, Latino or at one of the Asian categories can function as a white person sometimes, given where they are in the world and given how the white supremacists are using them at that point in time.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask that question, which, do you think that encompassing non-white altogether kind of takes away from the violence that happens to Black people from non-white people? Even
Oh yeah, I do. I do believe that it does take away from, because as Slav just mentioned, okay, let's say Latino, right? I keep saying, is it slave or Slav?
I'm just gonna go by 0526.
Okay, 0526 stated, like you said, Latino, but if I'm not mistaken, Latino is not even a race. Because you can be a Black Latino or a white one, and you can, especially if you're a white one, you can definitely camouflage without even being seen in amongst the room of white people. So yeah, that part with Neely, I don't really know if I agree with that whole umbrella of non-white people, because we all get treated differently under that umbrella of non-white people and look differently too. So yeah, that's what I have to say for now on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought that the Latino thing is really accurate. And I mean, he talks about it later on about racial classification confusion and how the white supremacists use that. But I also think it's tricky because there's a lot of, like Swa was saying, or 0526 was saying, there are people who are non-white who can become white. I don't know if this book was written in the 1800s, would Italians be a part of this non-white group? You know what I mean? But there's no way Black people are ever going to be white.
Yeah, I think it definitely make I understand it, because this is how the white supremacists operate. You either white supremacy, so which means it's either white or it doesn't matter. So I get the term non-white, but it definitely, I think it would be best if we're called Blacks, everyone who is called brown needs to start calling themselves brown instead of whatever Mexican or whatever they're calling themselves, and everyone who is so-called yellow needs to start calling themselves yellow, so we can all understand that we're the non-white classified colored people. I think that would help a lot. But
Do you
unfortunately,
think that that's? Do you
no,
think that that's? Sorry.
unfortunately, only black people are okay with being called a color. I don't think the Asians will ever be accept being called yellow or the
They did in the past. When they had the yellow peril thing.
yeah. But yeah,
Well, who are the island Pacificers? You know, is that Kamala Harris, the Island Pacific?
Pacific
But
Island?
she passed as black while she attended UConn, and also some Indian what do you call it? Indian descent passed for black when it's convenient for them. Neely Fuller was talking about that on Tuesday, I mean, I listened to so many shows and Zooms, and I can't keep up with them all. But just because somebody look black don't mean that they're black. Is what my point is.
mm-hmm.
Well, I have a
Go
question.
ahead, B.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Well, I have a question about that because, like, for instance, the Pacific Islanders. I remember I was watching that Out of Africa presentation that you all had put on a couple weeks ago. But then I did some more deeper research, and, like, for instance, like the Melanesians, they see that. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm getting a little kind of confused because although they call themselves Pacific Islanders, for some reason or another, based on that presentation, we all still share that. Well, Black people share the phenotype that they have. Like, we got the brown skin, the woolly hair. And it's because we're all connected in some fashion or way. Even the Japanese, the indigenous Japanese. So the term Black, I think that honestly that was, I don't know. Can someone help me with this? Like, was Black?
I think that I apologize if I'm steering wrong from what you're saying, but
okay.
I feel like for us to be called Black is to create division. Like, just like how Swat was saying, Asian people will not call themselves yellow. Like, you know, like, they're not going to be comfortable identifying as yellow people. And, you know, from my experience, some brown people, they use the term brown people, like, as a way to, like, talk about unity and brotherhood and stuff like that. So I can't really say that. But what I am saying is the reason why the distinction is so, like, prevalent is because they want people who are Pacific Islanders to feel superior for having the same features. They want, you know, those people can be celebrated and things like that. And it's you know, it's a celebration for them. But for Black people don't get a chance to celebrate their large noses or their curly hair or X, Y, and Z, all these other things. And I think that's the reason that that's why that is, perhaps. Am I like,
well, it's like, well,
what about?
Go ahead.
What about what Neely Fuller said about race on page 7, racism? Isn't that a part of racism? Having all these different labels for people, because these labels didn't exist all the time. If you notice that you have to start checking now that you got to, what's other? Neely Fuller was talking about this Tuesday. He said, now they got on the application other. Well, what's other? Do you guys listen to Neely Fuller Tuesday show?
Yeah.
Produce Justice.
Yeah, I call.
You go to his produce.
I call in every Tuesday.
Oh, okay. I think I heard you talking about the book club.
Yeah.
Last Tuesday. Okay. Well, anyway, he's putting a label, because now even some circles I travel in, they are going to stop calling themselves Black, because as a matter of fact, Black people need to know who they are. And in order to know who they are, they have to have you have to have a culture. Black people don't have a culture. That's African culture that we came from. So once we know who we are, then we can call ourselves that, because we've been called colored, we've been called Negro, niggers, Black, what else?
everything else.
So we need one
thing.
name with one culture and one history, and we need to stick to that. That's why you won't see the Orientals calling themselves yellow or brown.
That's a good point for sure. And just to kind of touch back on what V was saying one more time, you know, thank you for that, Barbara, as well, because I think that's true too, and that's a point that I didn't think about till you just said that, about how all these labels don't really mean anything. They're just used to create division between other people. But
Right.
if Pacific Islanders share similar features to black people, it's because they are also black people. That's my thought about it. Maybe I could be wrong, but it feels, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it might be a duck. Like, so I don't know what I'm supposed to say about that. Like, that's what I feel though. I feel that if you embody black features or African features, then you are an African person.
I would have to agree with you, and it seems to me that a lot of folks are when they look at, let's just say, Black people in America, and when they look at people who are from Melanesia, for some reason they don't look at it as like, oh wow, it's interesting how both people here share the same phenotype. They see themselves as separate, but from my research, I'm seeing that the Melanesians are treated worse than the Polynesians and the Micronesians because they look starkly different. But I don't want to. I guess I don't want to go on a tangent. But they look starkly different.
They look more black. That's
right.
They have more black features.
I think this is a great example of like racial classification confusion. And
you right.
Yeah, like it's we can like talk about these classifications all we want, but at the end of the day, you're not white, which is why you're subjected to
I thought you had your phone.
violence. So yeah, do we want to let's talk about the characteristics of racist man and racist woman. Is there anything that caught anyone's eye on that section? Has anyone ever
for me, number 4, racist man and racist woman always use deceit, indirect violence, direct violence, or the threat of direct violence. Oh, sorry. To accomplish their ultimate objective of establishing, maintaining, expanding, and or refining the practice of racism, white supremacy. I thought that was like just very accurate in terms of I've been noticing the way that white people use deceit in that they don't like not answering your questions, not being straightforward. And I liked the idea of like that indirect violence or the threat of direct violence because police are race soldiers, there's always that threat of direct violence whenever you're engaging with a white person, which causes you to, like there's ways that Black people treat each other that they would never treat a white person because they know that white people have like armed bodyguards in like the race soldiers that are the police. And so I just thought that's what brought up to me. And also just the fact that white people hold all the economic power because being homeless is a threat of violence too, or being like jobless is a threat of violence. So them being able to withhold that when you're on your plantation, I think that's really important too. So yeah.
I agree 100%. I also wanted to say, to answer your question, Sloth, the one that stood out to me was number 2, which, I mean, they all go hand in hand with another, but number 2 goes directly to number 4, in my opinion, because if racist men and racist women are collectively the smartest, etc., then how could you ever trust their word? How could you ever trust the words of white people? How could you, if you talking about replacing the system of white supremacy with a system of justice, if the white supremacy machine just hypothetically, like, you know what, you guys are right, that we need peace and there's not going to be any more racism, and from now on everything's going to be great, I would never fucking trust that in my life. I would never in my life trust that because historically, what have we been? It's been proven time and time again. You cannot trust white people. I just cannot think of a single time in like where white people were trustworthy, or actually came through and delivered on the promises they made. They lie to Black people every day, every single day. We get lied to. We get taken for fools because we behave foolishly. I guess we're behaving in a counterproductive manner, and they're happy to feed that cycle, to keep the counterproductive nonsense in a constant cycle and feed us distractions and destruction and death. disease, etc., etc. So that's the one.
Illusion of inclusion.
Indeed. I like that a lot. I might steal that. That's excellent.
So once we get over thinking that we're going to be included, if we haven't been included for 400 years, everyone was telling me that, why would we even want to talk about it? I don't want to talk about it. I want you to, I want to build my community. I want to build my peace, and using this code is a sure way to live a peace and harmony life. And you might have to go off the grid, but
just to respond to some of the things that have been said, if enough people, like Jai, you're right, you should never ever trust a racist suspect. It's unfortunate that us victims have discovered that reality much too late. But I think if enough victims are on code, the white supremacists, like Neely Fuller says in this book, have two choices. They literally have to produce justice, because if they were to say, hey, we're gonna produce justice, but if they're gonna if they were to turn their way, if they were to go against that word, then there's a bunch of victims on code who are watching them. Or they can say, hey, we're not gonna produce justice ever. We're just gonna kill all of you guys. Which is
that's what they're saying now.
Which is fine by me, but it should be fine by all the people who want to produce justice as well, because if you understand what justice means and the importance of that, yeah.
0526. Yeah. Okay. It's just very unreasonable that the burden falls on the shoulders of non-white people. We have to keep these tabs on people and say, oh, you said you were going to do this, but you didn't do this. You said you're going to do this or do that. So the only options we have is to try to hold white people accountable or die. There doesn't seem to be any other option. So
you could be a slave forever. Keep that going. Or
wait, can you elaborate on what you said, Jair? I'm kind of confused.
Well, so I was saying, oh gosh, okay. What Swah had mentioned, 0526. Jesus, man. What he mentioned was the fact that we're not able to trust white people, right? Not fully, or probably not even partially. I don't really know, but the point that I'm making is that why is it the burden of non-white people to end a system that we didn't create? That's if I wasn't being clear about that before, I apologize. But
well, I mean, you're in a war. Do you watch a film? Do you watch Braveheart and think that the British are just gonna somehow stop invading the Scottish people's land?
Obviously not. I don't think that at all. But
you have to act accordingly. Like, you are the ones that have to liberate.
Okay, let me ask you, Ash. If we keep acting accordingly, how will anything change? How can we expect?
Who's acting accordingly in this war that Jair?
All right, let me finish, man, because I'm trying to get to a point. How can we expect the system of justice to overtake white supremacy if the only way for us to make any moves is to act in the confines of the white supremacist organization already? How are we supposed to get out of it if we have to keep?
You're not supposed. So the code is not just about you acting in accordance to white supremacy, right? It's being smart and logical about how you move and maneuver under white supremacy. It's just how white people maneuver around us, where they say one thing and do the opposite, and they plan and scheme without us knowing. We have to build those networks of planning and scheming and doing things under their, without them knowing, right? But having a face of being courteous to them, of being respectful to them, whilst also having networks of things that we're doing underground, if that makes sense.
The network that white people.
The code was written in the first place. That's why he wrote the book.
right? Think about like espionage. Think about if you're in a war, and think about like guerrilla tactics, right? You
I
have,
understand.
yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, that's why he wrote the book in the first place, what you just said, Ash. Because we have to live by a certain code in order to counter this racism.
Yeah, and it's like the war effort is just, it's so easy to contribute because like the white supremacist has really I'm just gonna use the book, has really made us these three things: powerless and pitiful, primitive and or ignorant, stupid and or silly. And like I'll give an example. I was talking to my cousin who wants me to tell us you all that she apologizes for us being victims. She's not a victim like us, even though I was talking to her and she was wearing this blue wig, and I was telling her, why do you have this on your head? And she's like, well, why? Because she said she doesn't like her hair. So she's aware that she lives in a society that has trained her to hate the way she looks naturally, but she's not a victim. And I told her, you could contribute to this war simply by like not participating in any more ghetto glorification, or by simply saving some money and no longer getting these long ass fingernails or getting this blue wig in your hair. But she refused because that's the state of war. Our black people are in any position to do anything good for themselves or good for the war effort. So it just, small things can help the war effort a lot, but we have to get on that thinking. We have to get on code, if that made sense.
Yeah, and I think too, to like answer what Jair was saying, we have to, like, I feel like other races, right, at least have some sort of leverage, because even if like Asian people are not on obviously the compensatory counter racist code, but they're on at least some sort of code amongst themselves, which has like, caused them to like establish whatever leverage they have. But I don't think that Black people have any leverage at all. And I don't even think you can make demands without having any leverage. And you can't have any leverage without all of your people being on code and not being like showing off to white people, being online, doing things like that, like being serious, I think.
Black people are exceptional people. They have more power than they realize. I mean, just in their pocketbook alone. If you look, I don't know if you guys are familiar with post-traumatic slave syndrome, but it helped me understand the state of our people and how they got like that. But according to Neely Fuller, it doesn't matter. I mean, one person, you see what one person has done in your lifetime? Look at the history. One person, it takes one person, and then more people will follow. But Black people are exceptional people. They're like no other. But because they've been taught otherwise, it's going to take a lot to undo that damage. But this book, like a book like Neely Fuller and a whole line of people, are you people all in the United States?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought I was talking to England or somewhere. There were some. Then you have some people from.
Yeah, we have 2 Englanders, but they won't be in this group.
Oh, that was another book club you had.
Yeah, that's for this.
When you first read it?
No, when I was reading it, like it was, I think I was overstanding a lot of it because I've just seen I've seen white people be powerful, smart, and sophisticated and malicious and or hostile my entire life, and I've seen Black people be powerless and pitiful my entire life. So reading it was like, wow, I'm able to like, I didn't have any trouble under like, so far I haven't had any trouble understanding anything in here. But I've been trained in how to study white people language in college, so that could be why. Oh, anyone else? Is everyone able to understand the logic Neely Fuller is has presented?
For me personally, yes. And I think what's really special about this book is that reading this book makes me realize how much I ramble and how I'm not concise, because what I really appreciate about this book is I feel like he's really very careful about his word use and very, very concise, and he doesn't really use any jargon. So I like it because it feels really accessible. At least, I mean, there's parts where I was confused, but that's later on in this intro.
How many pages have you read up to?
I'm personally I'm on 361.
Okay, the book club started with how many pages? Today's
For,
the first day for the book club?
yeah, the first 14 pages. Yes.
Okay, so you do, and how often are you meeting?
So what did everyone think about the, I like when Neely Fuller talks about like non-white people as powerless and primitive? What were your thoughts on the definition of primitive? Do you think it applies to us? How do you feel? Do you feel like it's a conversation that non-white people have with each other? If not, do you feel like we could have it about our behavior being primitive? Do you think it applies?
I think it
Maybe
I think it applies. I think it's something we fail to admit.
could it be that just we have been conditioned? Because I like education, because for me, education has brought me from a long ways, and I just started waking up in 2014. I'm a senior citizen, and I got my bachelor's in 2016. So I would have gone to my grave not knowing a lot of this stuff, just like my ancestors have already gone, not knowing what the truth is. So I think education is what is the most pivotal point in our lives, to learn and keep learning. Because the more we learn, like my Aunt Mary used to say, people who know better do better. So once we know better, I believe we will do better. But there are a lot of non-white people who don't know so much too, and they are afraid because they have found that book in their basement showing how many slaves their grandfather had, and they don't want to tell people about it. So I was in a Zoom with this lady proclaiming that, and so I don't want to get too far off the subject, but just so you know, education will really change a lot of things. Like we're doing this book club to understand what Neely Fuller is saying and asking of us, because this guy's a legend. And if we're able to follow this code, I believe that even 3 of us, 4 of us, 5 of us will make a difference.
Yeah, agreed. This like me discovering Dr. Francis Cresswell Welting and Neely Fuller is the only reason this book club exists. You know, only reason the book club exists, because I think I'm trying to get as many slaves aware that they don't have to be slaves anymore, or that they can be a serious slave and try to solve the problem, which is the whole purpose of this book. And I hope all of us being here.
And change that word to enslaved. Enslaved. Enslaved.
Yeah.
Our choice of words, you know, enslavement is what they were, you know.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be that in our minds anymore. I mean, I think that's how my ancestor was able to chop cotton and pick cotton and sing "We Shall Overcome," because in their mind, they were trying to survive.
Yep. They had
Mr.
to.
Fuller is about 91, 92.
91. Yep. I think well,
Well, I'll answer my question. I personally liked that, even though it sucks to think about, it is true. And I think he's very careful with his words in that he says, you know, like non-white people by comparison and in relationship to non-white supremacists are most of the time in most areas of activity primitive. And the way that he defines primitive, I do think that it applies to us. And I like that he makes a distinction between primitive and savage, because I do think that like white supremacists are smart, but it's their savagery that will always kind of, I feel like, be their downfall if they ever have a downfall.
yeah, but their savagery is also how they've gotten ahead. So it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because their savagery has also produced a possibly uninhabitable planet for them too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a really good distinction in my, but I don't know how well.
What page are you on? What page was that?
Oh, it's on page 11, the bottom of page, the last paragraph of page 11. But I don't think it will go over well with people unless you're as careful with your words as Neely Fuller is. Because I don't think that you can just say like non-white people are primitive and they're silly. You have to explain it that, like, you know, under a system of racism, white supremacy, like non-white people are trained to be, you know, primitive and silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back to page 13, the powers.
Oh yeah, we haven't got there yet. But yeah, let's get.
Oh, I thought you mentioned something about powers before.
Nah, let's get there. The white supremacist awesome power. So let's just read all of these. I'll read the first one. And then someone please take over.
And when you read it, could you tell me what it means to you?
Yeah, yeah, we should all do that. So he says, according to compensatory counter racist logic, there is reason to believe that there are 4 basic types of power among the people of the known universe. Number 1, all power. Power exercised by the known and unknown, God, the creator, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, the all-wise Brahma, the Holy Ghost, etc. So to me, all power is like the spiritual power that exists in all of us, the spiritual power, the spiritual force that created the universe.
I said.
Yeah. So that is what I believe to be the all power, the all force that has the ability to do all things imagined and unimagined. So that's my take.
I'll go next. Number 2 is superior power, white supremacy. Power exercised by the collective white supremacist races over/against all of the non-white people of the known universe. And I think that this power is like what I was talking about earlier, just like all encompassing. It's why, you know, our electric grids are controlled by white people. People in islands far away, their lives are still controlled by the needs of white people. They export all of their goods to white countries. And I liked this part because I think it's important for people to understand the distinctions of power, because I think non-white people are very, very confused about what types of power that they are even capable of having under white supremacy.
Does anyone want to read?
I'll go. Inferior power. Power exercised by the non-white people who exist in subjugation to the white supremacists racist.
Can you break that down for us?
In regards to inferior power, what I think of when I hear inferior power, it's non-white people making attempts to produce justice against the racists.
Barbara, do you want to read number 4?
If no one else is gonna go. Immediate power exercise.
I was that was number 4. I was reading, but you guys. But I'd like to know what subjugation is. You know, that number 3. What does that mean exactly? Inferior power. Anybody can elaborate on that? What is he saying there?
Yeah, he's saying that subjugating by being under my control, meaning if I want you to be living in poverty, that's what you're going to be doing. If I want you to be begging for a job, that's what you're going to be doing. I'm going to have the control to put you in various positions that you're not going to enjoy, and that's going to cause you stress. You know.
Oh, okay. Subject. You're subject to do whatever I want you to do.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In immediate power, it's power exercised by any person, animal, insect, and so forth, to directly cause and/or effectively threaten to cause the death of and/or serious injury to any person, animal, insect, and so forth. Looking at all those 2 through 4 powers, it looks like 1 has all the greatest power that I like to follow, because I was a Christian for most of my life until I became a spiritist. I found out the true power is within us. So, like you, who was saying that earlier?
05. Yeah, that was me. But it's like Voltron, you know, the power is in all of us, but unless we're like utilizing it together, it can only do so much. You get what I'm saying?
No, you got to focus on independent, compensatory. Independently. Your power independently can really enlighten someone else. You know, when you exert your power, you can literally light up a room with your assurance of your, I don't know, what am I saying right now?
I wanted to say something about that. Or were you done, Barbara? Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
What?
Oh, I wasn't sure if you were like gonna finish your statement or if you were done.
Oh, that explanation, I don't know how to exercise any person animal. Yeah, that seems like a racist power, number 4.
Yeah, I think number 4 is the most interesting one to me, because I think people mistake immediate power for like institutional type power, like the superior power, white supremacy. That's why there's like this whole hating Black men thing right now, or thinking that Black men are patriarchs and oppress Black women. I think it's because of the ideas of the immediate power, but that immediate power is not superior power or white supremacy. And I think that like non-white people, because they're so subjugated, really rely on number 4, the immediate power, to feel like they have superior power when really they don't. I think that's why they attack each other so much.
Agreed.
And because he says that these are, you know, the types of power of the universe, What does that mean exactly? What power we should be following? Inferior power? What is his method for mentioning this?
I think he just like, because there's a lot of confusion of like, you know, power, like how it works, who has it, who doesn't have it, what does it look like, you know? So I think he's just explaining to us like how power functions, and yeah, I think it's just that. And he's
It's helpful if like a person is saying, well, white supremacy doesn't exist because there's this Black person who is successful in this way. And I think that's what these definitions kind of show, is that that person doesn't have superior power. You know, they're just racially showcased. Because I think a lot of confused non-white people think that if there are some Black people that are in government, etc., it somehow means that all Black people are doing well.
Oh, I see what he's doing. He's introducing us to the kind of people so that we can know what they look like. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like this, all this whole introduction is about, he's teaching us the kind of people we're going to encounter. He's teaching us about the types of power, the three faces type of the universe. So this is all to let us know what we're up against, I believe, these first few pages. And you'll know the definition of them.
Yeah, exactly. This is like an introduction. Like, this is an introduction to like the system we're dealing with, because prior to opening this book, he doesn't expect you to understand racism, what it is and how it works, but he does expect you to be very confused about it. So I think that's why it's outlined this way and explained this way, because I know I had none of this information before reading this book, and I know most, if not all of it, has benefited me in some way, shape, or form.
You mean exercising it? How long have you been exercising these principles and guidelines?
Since I want to say I got the book probably the month after March. I think that's May. Don't know. But
It's April, bro.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, see. Yeah, so I've just been so focused on being a kind of racist, you know. I don't keep track of the days. But I think I got this book either April or May, and so far I've been utilizing it every single day. I kind of took a break from reading it because the book club was starting up. But yeah, I was very like disappointed, angry, and towards like other people who were victims and not trying to do anything about the war. But reading this book has made me understand that, you know, it's VGQ and no one has to do anything about this, but they should, but they don't have to. So I can't. So in that regard too, helping me not be so like angry at the people not doing anything about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, her information kind of eased me from being so hard on the people, because you have to realize Shock Matthews say that there's nothing wrong with Black people. Something happened to them. So we have to be aware of what's happened to them, and you got to be gentle with them because they know not what they're doing.
Yeah,
when they're hating on each other, gossiping about each other, hating on this sister, fighting among themselves, they know not what they're doing. And do not be a part of it. I used to tell my son, if you see trouble, go the other way. So, you don't want to be watching. I couldn't understand, how do people stand around and watch people fight or watch people, that's really, what does Neely say about that? People who just go along, just stand up on the corner. I don't know if you guys seen any of his cartoons.
Yeah, some of them.
They are so funny, aren't they? The cartoons on YouTube.
Yeah, we have
It's interesting, but
we have do you have any more comments about what we read, or should we move into closing comments?
how long you usually meet? 2 hours? And this is my first.
Yeah, so it's I really just so much information packed in 14 pages. I think one of the most important parts is just the 3 basic characteristics of the racist, white supremacist, which is powerful, smart, sophisticated, malicious, and hostile. And the 3 characteristics of non-white people compared to what I just mentioned, which is powerless, pitiful, primitive, ignorant, stupid, and silly. When I first read that a long time ago, I was able to understand like why my life had been what it was. It's like the system I live in, and I truly, truly, truly wish this book finds itself and with many victims, so we can solve this problem in our lifetime, hopefully within the next 5 years. But yeah, anyone else closing comments?
My closing comments is the first 14 pages defines the classifications of just the system, the define of power, and race. It gives you more detail of how you should see things or how things are functioning in the white supremacy system. So it made me see things a little bit more differently as opposed to who's in power and how we are dictated towards them and how they are dictated towards us. So know that we are powerless is sad, but they don't have to be like that forever.
What was the question?
Oh, we're just giving like closing comments on what we read.
Oh, yeah, I had this book, like I said, I started waking up in 2014, and I got the book in 2014, and I just found it so hard to read. I just could not concentrate on it. I mean, I didn't understand anything about it until I heard Dr. Fuller on the Carl Nelson show recently. All of those talk shows is on his producejustice.com. Every time he goes to talk to somebody. And that was the eye opener for this book, how to read this book, how to get the best out of it. And that's why I joined this club when I heard that you were going to be doing this book, because I thought I still needed extra help too, you know, with someone else's thought on what he's saying. Thank you all for your patience with me this evening and my non-technical self.
No, like thank you for being for coming. You know, there's supposed to be at least 21 people today, but there was about 10, 11. So I mean, this is the state of the war that we're in. So the more
yeah, we could be the only one living on the planet right now with everything going on in DC. They're storming the White House.
Oh man,
They're literally storming the White House. And I was a little distracted because my son is a DC police officer, and I'm sure he had detail today. I sent him a text and I haven't heard from him. So I was a little distracted, and I'm working on this trademark. I told you guys that you missed it, but I'm playing trademark attorney, and I have until Monday to answer a motion by myself. So Thank you all for your patience. I look forward to getting all I can early, because if I knew then what I know now, I would have had a different life. I know I would have. If I knew how to budget, if I knew how to invest in stocks, if I knew how to do all those things that it takes to live a wealthy life, and rich life, working is not going to get it. So if you know how to do things at home, start a business, do anything you can do, sell tea cakes by the roadside and incorporate it. Enough mothering. I'm done.
Well said. Well said.
One thing I will add in my closing remarks in regards to the protesting at DC. Going back to page 9 with the 6 most important characteristics of racist man and racist woman. I think the protest at the DC Capitol is a good example of number 3. Racist man and racist woman have as their ultimate objective the eternal promotion of their pride, ego, and arrogant incentive by practicing the eternal domination and abuse of people who they classify as non-white.
Dan?
Yes.
Those were all non-white people. I didn't see any, of our regular protesters out there breaking through windows. These were armed non-white people. I mean, all white people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And these were more like rebels, more like I don't know what do they call them? There's a name they call them.
Well, they can be called many things, but the correct term, I believe, is racist suspects versus racist suspects.
Yeah. So it's all about them.
Yeah. Closing comments. Anyone else, or is that everyone?
I'll go. Yeah, I agree with what Dan said. I thought that was pretty good observation, because I do think that a lot of the stuff that's happening right now is based on pride and ego and a consistent desire to dominate. And I think it's just very interesting to watch from the sidelines. I'm really excited to keep reading this book. I feel like it's such a special, for lack of a better term, book, because I don't personally know of any other book that's like a guide like this that has such concise but also useful definitions and distinctions. And further in, it's gonna go into situations and how to act in those situations. And so I'm really excited to apply everything that I'm gonna learn in this book to my life and to how I interact with other people. And hopefully the people in my life will join these meetings so that they can also be able to be on code, because I think the more of us that are on code, the more powerful it is. I really liked the all power, superior power, inferior, and immediate power. I'm definitely going to use that the next time people who are confused about white supremacy try to explain things to me in their confused way. And I also like the 6 most important characteristics of racist man and racist woman. Yeah. And I think that's all.
Anyone else like to share or closing comments before we adjourn?
Sandra or Jai?
Okay.
Can you hear me? My mic was tripping out. I'm sorry. I was talking and nobody could hear me. Okay. I feel like the book is powerful because it directly acknowledges the problem and that's the first step to solving it. And I feel like it's something that once we read it in that context, we can talk about the problem more and break it down in a different way than we did before, because it so clearly outlines everything that's wrong with the system. The same, I feel, reading, researching, and educating each other on this can only go in a good direction from this point on, and excited to read the rest of the book.
Alrighty, thanks everyone for sharing.